What does parental sadism look like with Ruby Frankie as our subject? First, this video is for educational purposes to break down sadistic red flags, so you can more easily recognize those toxic traits in others in your own life. Ruby Frankie is the now 42-year-old Utah mother of 6 who had a YouTube channel with over 2 million subscribers called 8 Passengers, which centered around her very odd and curious strict parenting style.
I'm doing a TV segment. You guys, I'm going on TV again.
No family's that perfect.
However, on August 30th, 2023, Ruby Frankie was arrested along with her bestie, Jodi Hildebrandt.
Ruby Frankie, the mom of 6, behind bars, along with her business partner, licensed therapist Jodi Hildebrandt.
When her 12-year-old son managed to escape from Jodi's home and knocked on a neighbor's door, hurt and begging for food, thus causing this 911 call to be made by the neighbor.
911. I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty. And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid. I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds. We need the cops here as soon as possible.
Wounds on his leg are pretty good. 12X511, 314 medical is going to transport him. Said that his wounds are in need of immediate care.
When the police arrived at Jodi's home, they also found Ruby's 10-year-old youngest daughter in a similar condition.
Used rope to anchor him to the ground, and when he got wounds, open wounds from the ropes, she used cayenne pepper and honey to treat them.
I've noticed that you've been hiding from me.
Ruby and her friend Jodi were charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse, which means they can each spend many decades in prison. But what were the warning signs that there was something very wrong with Ruby's behavior? We're gonna break down their psychology along with body language red flags to reveal what parental sadism looks like. Now, let's get started.
My mom is crazy.
I'm floating around 10 feet.
It's been a while. There could be many things that are psychologically going on with Ruby and Jodi to do what they did, including a myriad of possible cluster B personality disorders, such as narcissism, antisocial, psychopathy, but what we will be focusing on here is sadism. Sadism is typically when someone derives pleasure from inflicting pain, suffering, and humiliation on others. Therefore, you may be wondering what's the motivating factor for sadistic behavior. It's motivated by them seeking power and control over others when they themselves feel they lack both. Therefore, it's usually a coping mechanism to use their victims to feel better about themselves.
What are you doing to this poor baby? Should I tape your eyes to make you sleep?
The really sad part is that their victims are usually in a relatively subordinate position, such as a child or an employee, which allows the sadist to use their position of authority to exert power over them. Sometimes sadistic behavior is masked by rationalizing their actions, calling themselves just a tough parent, just a religious leader who wants their followers to make it to heaven, or just a boss who knows what he wants.
Just because you reframe it as tough love or tough parenting, that's not love, that is abuse.
She made me sleep outside in the snow. She duct taped me.
Parenting ideas, that all comes from Jodi.
It's a sentiment also shared by Frankie's estranged husband, Kevin.
Kevin feels like Jodi manipulated the entire family, children included.
We knew that Jodi does this. We knew 14, almost 15 years ago that she's already done this to me. And people saw and people witnessed and did nothing.
Many times their sadistic behavior will escalate. And do you think that was the case with Ruby? Yes, especially after she stopped making videos on YouTube. But why do you think that was the case? First, less accountability to the world, because before she was limited by what the viewers would say about her and was worried that if she was too harsh, she would easily be reported.
Would like to cancel me, who would like to see me either burn in hell, as I have told, or disappear off the face of the earth.
If we started a channel where we could be your life coach and give you some advice.
Also, just like any addiction, there's usually a component of escalation because of their feelings of desensitization, tolerance, fantasies, thrill-seeking, novelty, and overall psychological progression. Basically, the sadist may organically or accidentally start out with small, controlling, and power-seeking behaviors. But when they quickly realize how good that sadistic behavior made them feel with control and power, they quickly become addicted to that sadistic behavior. Therefore, what do you think will happen? Yes, they not only continue it, but often escalate that behavior to become more harmful, harsh, and extreme as they get desensitized and build tolerance, so they're constantly seeking more ways to exercise their power and control over their victims. And they may even lie to themselves about why they need to punish their victims more and more harshly. They may say things like, "You just never learn." But the sadist is constantly moving the goalposts to create an impossible standard to continue to manipulate you into thinking you are bad, getting you to believe you deserve their escalated punishment to satisfy their addiction to power and control.
Creating joy in some people's lives today.
You may be wondering, how do you know if a parent, religious leader, or boss is being sadistic or just tough, demanding, and particular? As you can imagine, it's very difficult to tell what someone's feeling inside. But can you guess how you can try to find out? Yes, one of the ways is with their body language. Now watch this clip and see if you can spot some things in her body language that gives it away that Ruby is sadistic. And then we'll break it down.
But you yelled at me.
Shh. The fact that I yell at my kids is a secret. We don't want our viewers to know.
Did you notice that wince and then that smile and laughter when her child exposed her? Yes, and then we oddly notice massive joy on her face, which seems to come across as excitement when she talks about yelling at her children. Yeah, parents may reprimand their children, but they don't usually show that type of enjoyment when talking about it. Also, based on what we know about her, I don't think her reprimanding is done constructively to make them behave more positively.
If you cut one more thing in my house, we're chopping its head off. I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
Instead, it's done sadistically and harshly for her to feel more powerful and in control.
You don't want dog food for breakfast, do you?
Did you want dog food for breakfast? Oh, this is really good.
I'm only going to say it one more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat dinner.
I just got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. Hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
And my kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm like a mean barbarian, but I told the kids, I said, I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores done.
Yes, Ruby has been known to constantly laugh, smile, and show joy on her face when she's making her kids' lives miserable.
I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores done.
Their misery and suffering are funny and enjoyable to her, which is consistent of a sadist. Sufficient rest and food for a child is especially important because they're growing immensely mentally and physically every day.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October.
Therefore, when Ruby takes away sufficient food and rest from her children as punishment, she is depriving them of proper development. Yes, I know in the past parents would punish their children by sending them to bed without dinner, but we've learned a lot in the more recent decades regarding a child's development. However, for Ruby, it's not actually done to punish her children, but to feed her sadistic desires to control and feel powerful.
My gosh, you guys, having kids is so much fun.
Typically, when we are in a position of power and we feel the need to reprimand, punish, or be overtly demanding of someone, it doesn't bring us any joy. Instead, we consider it to be a necessary, unfortunate situation. However, Not with the sadist. As we saw, their facial expressions may leak, or especially in the case of Ruby, even light up with joy when they reprimand, punish, or demand harshly. You may notice joy leak into the sadist's facial expressions even when they're just talking about the possibility of reprimanding or punishing you, because they are imagining and anticipating the euphoria of finally feeling power and control in their life. Therefore, you may notice that they oddly talk a lot about punishing and reprimanding you, because even just talking about it gives them a dopamine release. When you're in pain, suffering, or humiliated, you will notice that the sadist will have a joyful facial expression. It's because they are enjoying flexing their power and control over you and watching you suffer physically and emotionally.
And I'm going to pretend that life is exactly how I want it.
I want to go.
All right?
They often can't help but to feel joyful about hurting you. It's kind of like Christmas to them, since they are receiving the relief of finally getting to feed their insecure egos with your tears, pain, and anguish. If you watched the comedy show South Park, a famous episode was when Eric Cartman fed Scott Tenorman his parents.
I made you eat your parents.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yes! Yes! Oh, let me taste your tears, Scott.
And was literally licking the tears off his face. It's an extreme example all the way around, but that's sadism. A person's pain, suffering, and humiliation perpetrated by the abuser makes the abuser finally feel that they are in control and powerful in a world where they feel they massively lack both. Another example is if you've ever seen the 1990 movie Problem Child. There was certainly a lot going on psychologically with Junior that would have needed to be addressed professionally, but what was it that caused John Ritter's character to be most concerned?
We've adopted Satan.
Right, it was Junior's sadistic behavior causing pain, suffering, and humiliation, and enjoyment seeing others in an unfortunate situation he created. Yes, many times sadists are also psychopaths, but here we're specifically discussing what sadism looks like and how to know if someone is manipulating, using, and creating an unfortunate situation in your life to boost their fragile self-esteem. As previously briefly mentioned, the escalation component is huge if you're trying to determine if someone is a sadist, where you legitimately feel like you can't ever make them happy.
So you haven't thrown up?
No, but I was about to in class.
I gave Julie a tongue lashing that will not ever be repeated nor recorded. Just use your imagination. It was bad. If you throw up, you throw up. If you throw up twice, you call me. Be honest, how's school going?
Really great.
You love it?
Yeah.
Imagine if you were her daughter there.
Do you really?
Yes.
Do you really?
Do you think she would actually ever open up to her mom about any trouble at school?
And you would tell me if you were having problems at school?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I believe you. I believe you.
That nervous, terrified blink at the end there says it all. Poor kid. What do you think would happen to her if she mentioned anything negative that happened to her at school? Right, more yelling and more punishment to apparently feed Ruby's sadistic addiction.
Having kids is so much fun.
Whether that kid knows it's specifically sadistic or not, she probably found out the hard way that it's way easier to always keep her mouth shut, holding her feelings in. However, if she keeps her mouth shut when something negative happens and then Ruby finds out about it, what do you think will happen to her? Yes, big time punishment for disobeying Ruby, but how can you blame the kid? Why would she voluntarily tell Ruby anything if she knew she would just be punished harshly for even the smallest thing?
Come on, we're going for a sleigh ride.
Do you want to know what the #1 sign of a happy child is? It's a singing child.
You're wrong again, Ruby Tuesday. Prisoners, slaves, the military during grueling exercise, what do they all do? Yes, they all sing, and it's not because they're all just so happy to be in pain. People also sing to allow their minds to escape sadness, anxiety, or physical and mental pain.
It's a singing child.
She's just trying to make up bogus evidence to convince and manipulate you, the viewers, into believing her kids are fine and for you to stop reporting her to law enforcement.
People for a while suspected that Frankie was up to no good. There was a change.org petition set up where people signed to have Frankie investigated. They wanted Child Protective Services to get involved. There was criticism of her online. Police were called to the home last year after they received reports of the well-being of the kids.
That's probably why that kid sings. the kid feels trapped. It's living under the authoritarian sadist like Ruby, which surely makes the kid want to psychologically escape by singing.
What does that smell?
My smell.
Go get a bite to eat first.
What's really sad about all this is that the sadists are psychologically manipulative, where they will make you feel like you are doing them wrong, thereby helping to obfuscate their sadistic desires and behaviors.
The 12-year-old saying, "It was my fault." That almost made me cry when I saw that. That really shows, as much as the injuries, the extent of abuse that this kid had, is that somehow he believed that not being fed, being tied by his ankles and his wrists was somehow his fault. That's just heartbreaking.
Thanks, Mommy.
Ruby and her friend Jodi were apparently manipulating their children to feel like it was their fault for being tortured. And if that's all the children knew about being parented, then they will likely believe their manipulation and that they sadly deserved it. However, it was her unattainable standard, which was done intentionally to consistently exercise her power and control over her children so she and Jodi could emotionally feel better about themselves.
I don't normally give the kids a Christmas present.
Wow. Got me like a... Got me like a dagger. What do I use with this?
Merry Christmas, all of you.
Ruby doesn't always give her children Christmas gifts, but when she does, they're potentially harmful to themselves and others. A sadistic parent may set up their children for failure, which is a form of manipulation by creating situations in their home where the likely outcome is chaos. Can you guess why? Right, so they can have additional excuses to punish their children, thereby feeding into their desired feelings of power and control.
I'm going to take Julie to go get her hair cut. I'm really excited about getting her haircut.
Oh, wait a second. Ruby can't be a sadist. She was so nice to even take her daughter to get a nice fresh haircut. On second thought, I think we've seen enough.
Count 1.
Guilty.
Count 3.
Guilty.
Count 5.
Guilty.
And to count 6.
Guilty.
Now in the comments, what would you do if you were one of Ruby's children? Let everyone know in the comments below. Subscribe and hit that notification bell for more. I know it's been a little while since I posted content, and I don't anticipate in being that MIA. At the end of the fall semester, I was focusing on finishing one of my master's degrees. It is finished, it's done. However, there's always more schooling, as you can kind of imagine, in my field. So kind of working on a whole bunch of more schooling and research and other clinical work and things like that. So always busy, always having things going on. But I think going forward, I'll be carving out more time to make these videos. These are really fun and interesting to make, and I like hearing your comments, and I like the community that we've built here. So I'm going to be focusing a little bit more time making video content, but nevertheless, I am taking a lot of courses still, and I have a lot going on still. So try my best to get things out for you all. Anyway, so that's what's going on, and thanks again for sticking with me.